Treating someone like a child. Here is an example of how this manipulation tactic can be used. Imagine you are working on a group project with a colleague named Alex. Alex consistently talks down to you, undermines your ideas, and questions your abilities. Whenever you try to contribute to the project, Alex dismisses your input and takes over the decision-making process. They constantly remind you of your lack of experience and treat you as if you are incapable of making meaningful contributions. By treating you like a child, Alex is attempting to exert control and manipulate the dynamics of the group project. This manipulation tactic aims to make you doubt your own abilities and rely on Alex for guidance and approval. It can be emotionally draining and can hinder your confidence and growth. It is important to recognize when someone is using this manipulation tactic and assert your independence and capabilities. Communicate your thoughts and ideas confidently, and if necessary, address the issue with the person directly or seek support from others involved in the situation. Guilt tripping. Guilt tripping entails the act of manipulating someone into feeling remorseful or ashamed about themselves or their behavior within a particular context. For example, if an individual with toxic and negative tendencies discovers they were not invited to a friend's gathering, they might employ guilt-tripping tactics by expressing sentiments like, "I can't believe you didn't invite me. I thought our bond was stronger than that." By doing so, they aim to evoke feelings of guilt within the friend and ensure their inclusion in future events. This behavior often seeks to manipulate the emotions of others to serve the guilt tripper's own agenda. Playing the victim. When individuals adopt a victim mentality, they often employ a strategic approach that can be remarkably effective. This tactic places the burden on the other person to challenge the manipulator, requiring them to assert that the manipulator's assertions are entirely incorrect in order to regain control of the situation. This can be a challenging task that many people are hesitant to engage in, as it involves confronting the manipulator and disputing their narrative, a task that can be emotionally taxing and socially uncomfortable for many. Silent treatment. The silent treatment is a manipulative tactic commonly seen in relationships, workplaces, among friends, and online. It involves deliberately withholding communication or information from someone as a form of punishment. The manipulator may avoid eye contact or completely ignore the victim's presence, even when they're in the same room, as a means of control. Isolation. Isolation occurs when a manipulator severs the victim's connections with friends or family, ensuring no support system interferes with their plans. They achieve this by undermining the victim's relationships and gradually alienating them from loved ones, convincing them these relationships are harmful. Additionally, the manipulator fosters dependency by making the victim feel they require their approval or support, instilling fear that they cannot survive without them. This tactic is commonly employed by abusive partners, cults, and online predators. Ghosting. Ghosting and the silent treatment share similarities in their approach, characterized by a breakdown in communication between the perpetrator and the target. However, the key distinction lies in their intent. The silent treatment is typically employed for control and punishment, whereas ghosting is viewed as a passive and discourteous method of terminating a relationship or friendship indefinitely. Although ghosting may not always be consciously manipulative, its consequence of leaving the recipient without closure can evoke feelings of rejection, abandonment, and confusion. Triangulation. Triangulation is a tactic employed by manipulators, involving the introduction of a third party to instigate jealousy or competition within the victim. This leads the victim to feel the need to vie for the manipulator's attention. The manipulator might flirt with the third party, spend more time with them, and deliberately exclude the victim from activities, fostering a sense of competition. Additionally, the manipulator may spread rumors about the victim to the third party to sow discord and increase conflict. These actions manipulate the victim into a vulnerable state, making them easier to control by either the manipulator or the third party. Threats or coercion. Various forms of threats or coercion can manifest in diverse ways. Initially, there is the overt physical threat of violence or harm to one's property if compliance with the manipulator's demands is not met. Emotional threats involve scenarios like threatening to end a relationship over trivial matters or spreading damaging rumors about an individual. Financial threats occur when financial support is withheld or monetary stability is jeopardized. a tactic often exploited by hackers targeting companies through data breaches. A recent example is the ransomware attack on Colonial Pipeline, a significant fuel pipeline operator in the United States, where hackers demanded $4.4 million in Bitcoin for a decryption key. Financial threats can escalate into legal threats, with the threat of litigation looming. Social threats involve damaging a victim's reputation through falsehoods, smear campaigns, and slander. Emotional manipulation. Emotional manipulation, known as emotional blackmail, occurs when a manipulator employs threats, guilt, or other tactics to control and influence the victim. A common strategy is withholding affection and support until the victim complies with their demands. Additionally, the manipulator might make promises or commitments to the victim only to betray them later on. Projection. Projection occurs when one attributes their own thoughts and emotions onto another, often leading the other person to feel guilty for something they haven't done. This behavior, also known as victim blaming, is a tactic frequently employed by manipulators who deflect responsibility for their actions onto their victims. Similarly, deflection involves the manipulator being aware of their hypocrisy, but redirecting blame onto others to evade accountability. In projection, however, the manipulator lacks self-awareness and unconsciously shifts the blame. Aggressive humor. Aggressive humor, often overlooked as harmless banter, frequently harbors deeper intentions, potentially aiming to manipulate the unsuspecting target. In a Thought Catalog article, writer Shaha Arabi delves into this phenomenon, highlighting how individuals, particularly covert narcissists, employ malicious remarks disguised as jokes to maintain a facade of innocence while inflicting emotional harm. These individuals relish making hurtful comments under the guise of humor, thereby evading accountability for their appalling behavior. Moreover, victims who express outrage or discomfort are swiftly dismissed, accused of lacking a sense of humor. What distinguishes these jokes is their insidious nature, extending far beyond mere jests. They encompass insults, sarcasm, gaslighting, and exclusionary remarks, crossing boundaries and inflicting psychological wounds. Furthermore, at social gatherings, these jokes take on a new dimension, strategically isolating the recipient and positioning them as the object of ridicule. This not only reinforces the aggressor's power dynamics, but also compels bystanders to partake in the act, exacerbating the victim's distress. In essence, what might initially appear as harmless humor often conceals darker motives, perpetuating a cycle of emotional manipulation and psychological harm. Shaming. Shaming, similar to threats, manifests in various forms. One common tactic is public humiliation, where the manipulator makes disparaging remarks about the victim in front of others, either in person or online. The goal is to embarrass and humiliate the victim. The manipulator may compare the victim unfavorably to others, making them feel inadequate and inferior. They may also blame the victim for their own actions, mock them to induce feelings of foolishness and ridiculousness, or deliberately exclude them from social activities and events. The underlying purpose of these shaming tactics is to undermine the victim's self-worth and assert the manipulator's dominance. Shifting the goalposts. Shifting the goalposts is a rhetorical tactic used in arguments where the person making the argument changes the criteria or standards for success and achievement. This is done in order to avoid admitting they were wrong or taking responsibility for something. Example 1. Changing job requirements. A boss promises an employee a raise if they accomplish a specific task quickly. The employee successfully completes the task on time. However, the boss then decides the employee needs to complete 3 more tasks to receive the previously promised pay increase. Example 2. Changing reward criteria. A parent promises their child a reward if they clean the house. The child cleans the house as requested. However, the parent then denies giving the reward because the child didn't also get high enough grades in class, something that wasn't previously discussed. In both cases, the person making the argument, the boss or the parent, shifts the goalposts, changing the criteria for success in order to avoid admitting they were wrong or following through on their original promise. This is a manipulative tactic used to avoid accountability. Changing the subject. Manipulators often use the tactic of changing the subject as a quick way to divert attention from the current discussion. This can be an effective strategy, as the victim may easily fall for it unless they are quick to recognize and call out the attempt to shift the focus. The severity of this tactic can vary, just like many of the other manipulative tactics discussed in this video. However, it is one of the smaller tricks that, if noticed, can lead the victim to question the manipulator's motives and the direction of the conversation. By being aware of this tactic and staying focused on the original topic, the victim can maintain control of the discussion and prevent the manipulator from successfully changing the subject. Love bombing. Love bombing entails a deceitful strategy in which the manipulator overwhelms their target with affection, attention, and praise, leading them to falsely believe they are genuinely loved. Through excessive compliments, gifts, and discussions of elaborate future plans, the manipulator conveys intense emotions to convince the victim they are the center of their world. However, behind this facade lies the manipulator's true intention: to swiftly gain power and control. Moreover, love bombers often engender strong attachment in their victims, only to abruptly withdraw affection, leaving them yearning for validation and thus more susceptible to the manipulator's demands. Notably, historical figures like Adolf Hitler reportedly employed love-bombing tactics, such as with his wife Eva Braun, to maintain proximity while pursuing destructive agendas. Additionally, playing the victim is a common tactic utilized not only by manipulative individuals, but also by those seeking to evade accountability. This involves portraying oneself as wronged or hurt, shifting blame onto others, and garnering sympathy through the exaggeration of one's troubles, all without acknowledging personal responsibility or wrongdoing. Fake moralization. The strategy of fake moralization entails manipulators adopting a facade of elevated moral standards to exert power and influence over others. In essence, individuals generally resist authoritative or domineering figures, prompting manipulators to cloak their true intentions through various means, such as virtue signaling, wherein they publicly endorse causes or charities to garner admiration. It's common for those who position themselves on the moral high ground to exhibit hypocritical behavior, yet it often falls upon the victims to discern and challenge such duplicity, a task made daunting by the subtlety of the tactic and the manipulator's skill at deception. Consequently, confronting and thwarting this tactic proves to be an arduous endeavor for those ensnared in its web. Playing on insecurities. Manipulators excel at exploiting the vulnerabilities of others, often capitalizing on their insecurities to sow doubt and uncertainty. L. Ron Hubbard, renowned as the founder of Scientology, was a master at this art, adeptly targeting individuals who felt lost and susceptible. He skillfully manipulated their fears and anxieties, offering promises of personal transformation and enlightenment, while simultaneously preying on their apprehensions about the unknown and their dread of being rejected by friends and family. By convincing them that Scientology provided a path to acceptance and belonging in the world, he effortlessly persuaded tens of thousands to submit to his teachings, perpetuating his influence and control.